Your source for everything Dynasty Fantasy Football. With your hosts, John Bauer.
Looking to sell everybody price dependent.
Dan Lamagna.
Too much dysfunction in Cleveland.
And Mitch Sorensen.
Well, it's hard to compete with excellence.
Guys, how fitting is it that our first league review for the Dynasty Theory Patreon is the Dynasty Theory Listener League? Not number 2, not Listener League number 2, the original, the origin story. And we want to thank Jung for putting this together, requesting that we do this as our league review. So we really appreciate that. But he said, guys, don't hold back. Don't hold back. And I'm going to get a little brutal. I'm going to be honest here. But a lot of that is probably more towards my team because I look at it and it's depressing. It's depressing. But Mitch, since this is our first league review, it's good that it's our listener league. Get a little practice, get some tread on the tires here, get some wear and tear. But why don't you go through, kind of provide some historical information in the league, break it down. I'm going to do this as if I'm not in the league, honestly. Like I'm going to look at it as if it is a completely random league that I'm not in.
Right. Besides me talking crap on my team because it's terrible, because that's going to happen. But no, so I actually didn't realize how many of trades have happened. So in the last 2 years, we've had 185 trades, 122 the first one. You always expect a little bit more because the startup. So that's probably 20 to 30 trades by itself. So, I mean, we're really averaging about 60, 70 trades a season. TJ, of course, has won the last 2 years. Dan finished second last year. John, the other John with no H.
The better
John. Yes, obviously. Finished runner-up this year. And looking through it, I don't know to you guys, to me, it's pretty balanced. There's definitely some bottom teams. There's some top teams. But right in the middle, I don't think there's a team that's absolutely horrible. And I don't think there's a team that's so good no one could catch up to it within a year.
So I did like my own generic point scoring system, and Dan, you kind of did the same. I think, I don't know if it was a system, but a scoring system, but you kind of highlighted strengths and weaknesses. And I gave everything a 1 through 5, but it was just 1, 3, or 5. So pretty high level. So quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and draft picks. So the most you can get is 25 and the fewest you can get is 5. I don't want to talk about some of these bottom teams just yet, but it's going to get ugly, guys. But I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams within 4 points. So it's. I think there's 2 teams that are better than the rest. I think it's pretty clear, and I think there's 3 teams that are bad, and we're going to get to those eventually. Dan, what was your thought process here? How did you go about this? Looking at the league, the 14-team league, we all know the scoring format, so we're not going to get into that. But what were your thoughts?
First, I was excited about this league because when you look at getting into the Dynasty League, you like leagues that are active. Mitch talked about the trade activity. I mean, there's a really great group of guys that are active in the group chat. They're making a lot of trades. They have a lot of fun. We've built a lot of relationships with teams in these leagues. So this is how you want to have a Dynasty team or a Dynasty League. And then just the origins, like you talked about. I mean, this was Super Flexology before it was Dynasty Theory, and just to watch it evolve. And you know, I think Jung, I'm going to bust on our buddy here, man. I think it was like a humble brag, like, be hard on me. And I went and looked at Jung's roster, and we're in a few leagues with Jung, and he's had some rebuilds. He's got some teams on the back end. This team's awesome. I'm like, Jung, you want us to be hard on you? I think that was a humble brag for our buddy there. But jokes aside, I looked at each roster and I want to be able to offer just kind of feedback to where teams could improve, where their strengths are. You know, for Jung, who paid for this as a part of the Patreon, man, hopefully we can give Jung something here to say, hey, here's your trade targets and some areas to improve. And then I was just depressed because I looked at my team that I literally went from a contender last year, and trying to contend so hard, I got too emotional in my trades and traded myself out of being a very good team, and got to find a way to rebuild this baby.
And like you said, it's such a great group of people, very passionate, and that passion at times leads to debates, leads to arguments. I've been there. I've clashed with many of these guys. I've clashed with you too. And then we always get the patented Dan Lamagna in the middle of a debate. All right, guys, got to go for a run. Dan, it's 2 a.m. Where are you running?
I can only debate for so long, you know?
There's been so much gambling in this league based off that. Like, if you look at the last 2 years message board, there's like 2 people will have a bet, and then someone else will come in off of that bet, and then another bet will be based off that bet. And so I love that. It's probably my favorite Dynasty league that I'm in.
Just the involvement, the engagement, the level of activity, whether or not it's trading, but just the communication. Like, that's the chat that's always like at the top of my group me, that people are just always chiming in. So I love it. But let's get into it here. And I went through, I don't even know the order that this came out, but I have my team first, actually. So Can we talk about my team first?
Yeah, let's just go in order that the spreadsheet is.
All right. So Ryan Tannehill, Matt Ryan.
Wait, hold on. Should I talk about your team, someone talks about mine, then someone talks about Dan's?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
I want to talk crap on your team. So
I'll talk about Dan. Dan, you talk about Mitch.
Perfect.
Mitch, let me have it.
All right, dude. So Tannehill, Matt Ryan, you're probably okay. I mean, you're all right. You go down the running backs. You have Dalvin, who could kind of carry you. Then you have nothing. I mean, it's Gus Edwards, Jordan Howard, Marlon Mack, Alexander Madison. I mean, you have dust. But you're kind of lucky. You have Devontae Adams, who kind of carried you this season as is. Crowder, we all love Crowder, Godwin, and Michael Thomas. That's okay. You look at your tight ends. Hooper, Rudolph, Ian Thomas. And see, you can look at this team, you're like, you're okay. You're all right. You have Devontae Adams. You have Chris Godwin. You have Michael Thomas. But then, of course, it's the John Bauer special. Where's the draft picks? Oh, wait. You traded them. Did you make the playoffs in this league? I wasn't sure if you did.
No, Mitch, life lesson number 17. Whenever you're forced to start, even though he had 3 touchdowns this week, when you're forced to start Isaiah McKenzie most of the season, things aren't looking up for you. But I know that you're giving the breakdown here, but I think it's very clear the options that I have. Unload Devontae Adams, unload Dalvin Cook. Nobody wants Michael Thomas. Chris Godwin, his value is depleted right now. And we always talk about the depth of the wide receiver position. So my wide receiver core, there's not a lot of depth per se, but I have the high-end talent. After Dalvin Cook, it's garbage.
So I actually have you as a bottom 3 team. And the reason why I did this is based off draft capital, who you're going to have to trade to get some draft capital. And yeah, I have you as bottom 3.
You're telling me things that I already know.
I realize this. That's the first team breakdown. We have 13 more to get through.
I was very harsh on myself here.
Mitchell's notebook tonight, John, is okay. This is my opportunity to get John. I'm gonna help Young. No other notes. Like that was it, But John's got some pieces here. He with some creative planning, he might be able to get out of the hole.
I mean, in a 14-team league, he might be able to make himself 6th. Sorry, John. Sorry. Go ahead. I would never want to cut you off. I never do that.
I made the semifinals last year. Let the record show. This year, I'm chalking up to injuries and a horrific roster. I can't even say that with a straight face, but it's garbage. It's straight trash. If I had a lighter, I would set it on fire. So that's where I'm going. Everybody in the league, you know my plan of attack. I am looking to move Dalvin Cook. I am looking to move Devontae Adams. If somebody wants to, we've seen Michael Thomas's startup price. I mean, I think I might be able to get James Washington straight up, maybe on a good day. But that's my plan of attack. So anybody after you listen to this, if you have interest in one of those 2 pieces, let me know. I mean, even Matt Ryan. I mean, let's go full blown rebuild. I mean, if you have, do we have access to 2022 picks yet?
We will in a month when MFL flips over.
All right, I think that's the point that I have to start looking at this. I don't know if I'm going to get 2021 picks because it's a very stingy group at times. But I told you guys, my scoring went from 5 to 25. My team, 9 points. 9. It's awful. Besides an average wide receiver core with top-end talent, no depth, I have a lot of work to do. Let's move on here. Number 2 on the list, Mitch. Dan, have at it.
JB, I'll return the favor for you for our boy Mitchell here.
It's
Okay,
so bad.
I got your back this time, JB. Mitchell. So I've got some concerns here. I think I'm debating which of the 3 of our rosters is the worst. I can't even believe this. So, Jung, I'm going to get you back at some point, Jung. So your quarterback position with Big Ben, Wentz, and Foles, you're really hoping for a miracle. Like Big Ben's arm can't fall off. He's got to give you one more year somehow. Carson Wentz has to get traded to Indianapolis. And so just maybe somehow you could salvage and rebuild this quarterback position. There's some hope. The running back position, Mitch, oh my God. Like this is the part that's really, really painful for me.
It's beautiful.
I like your whole running back section's in red here in my notes. I don't even know where to start. Like Chase Edmonds flashed a little. Gurley, maybe his knee doesn't fall off. Darrell Henderson, maybe Akers goes down. Duke Johnson, I've given up on. Rashad Penny, I've given up on. Keyshawn Vaughn, maybe. Like, you got to help that running back position, buddy. So anyone listening tonight, Mitch needs a running back bad.
Sure, just real quick, I acquired Keyshawn Vaughn when I traded away Calvin Ridley. I mean, that's skill.
Oh.
I make terrible trades all the time. I didn't understand that. And that was with Anthony, I think, wasn't it?
It was. Yep.
Yeah, it was like I think I text him separately because Anthony, he's in Pittsburgh. We're good friends. He was at my wedding. I'm going to be in his wedding. It was supposed to be last year and then COVID. But Anthony, I'm looking forward to it, man. But I think the biggest wedding gift you could have given him was Calvin Ridley for the 115, Mitch.
You could just leave his card empty and like just say, congrats, have a beautiful marriage, enjoy Calvin Ridley. Thank you for Keyshawn Vaughn. Like that's all you need to do there. So that is a beauty. But your receivers are your silver lining. Like when you put your head on your pillow at night for a nap, man, like AJ Brown's exciting. Will Fuller will be back. He's only missing game 1 next year. DJ Moore's super youthful and exciting. LaVisca with, the Jaguars getting a stud quarterback. You've got promise there. And then even your weaker receivers, I mean, Couté, Duvernay, MVS, Van Jefferson, they've all flashed. They have potential. So you've got to maneuver something with those wide receivers to help you somewhere. Tight end, oh my Lord, Harrison Bryant's your best tight end. I know he's flashed a little bit, but like there's still 3 tight ends in Cleveland. And even if there's 2, Trey Burton's dust. The good news is you have a 1.07. So I think, and you have a 2nd round pick. The key to Mitch Sorensen, he has to hit on those draft picks. He cannot miss this year. So you've got to trade your way to like something at running back. You need luck at quarterback, and those draft picks must hit. No pressure, Mitch. No pressure.
Here, let me ask real quick, Mitch. I know you have moves lined up in your head, but here's what I thought of. And the way that I would try to leverage on my team, Devontae Adams and Dalvin Cook, I think for you, it's A.J. Brown. If you were looking to diversify there, you could make it by with Harrison Bryant or, pick up a cheaper tight end somewhere along the way. But quarterback, you could be screwed here. You could be absolutely screwed. You're on mute.
I was just going to say, this team's screwed. This is the worst team in the league.
So I actually have one team below you. I have one team below you. I have you tied with me at 9 points. But so Ben, he should be back next year. Hold on, Dan. Ben, he should be back next year. Carson, he obviously it's up in the air. Is he going to be a starter somewhere else? What's going on in Philadelphia? We don't know. But that 107, that could be Zach Wilson territory. That could be Trey Lance territory if you want to go that direction. And then you could leverage your 2022 picks for a running back maybe. But I think A.J. Brown is the piece here that you could move and get some value back. All right, Dan, you get a timeout.
Just glass half full for Mitchell here. We got to get, you can't just beat on him. I mean, like I could see Carson Wentz landing somewhere and being good again.
Could.
And I could see Big Ben wants to play, giving him one more year. So these quarterbacks could buy time for Mitch to fix this situation. The running backs, though, God bless you.
Yeah, right. So bad.
Here, Mitch, really quick, we've been on the clock for an hour and a half in this draft we're in, and people can kind of see what our thought process is here. We're later in the draft, but I haven't even updated our spreadsheet.
Just pick 2 people.
All right, I'll find somebody.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. We'll get on the next team.
All right. So as we transition here to the next team, you know what? I want to do Jung last. Can we do Jung last?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Nick, Drew Brees, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, Kenyon Drake, Kareem Hunt, Raheem Mostert. I left off like players that I really didn't think we should be bringing up. Wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins, Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, James Washington, who I might be able to get for Michael Thomas, Mike Williams, Mark Andrews, Eric Ebron, Hayden Hurst, and no first and no seconds. Mitch, what are your thoughts here?
This, to me, looks like a John Bauer team, to be honest with you. This is Nick is going to have one shot to compete, and it's going to be next year. He has to have Jalen Hurts do something. Breeze is gone, so he has Hurts and Murray, so he's okay. Drake, Hunt, and Mostert, maybe you get one more year. Same thing, you go down and you look at wide receivers. Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, probably good next year. You have Hopkins, Mike Williams. You could do something with that. Tight end wise, you're fine. Yeah, Mark Andrews, Ebron, and Hurst. But I look at this team, I see 2021, and then it's blow it up. Like, unless you want to blow it up early, I would still try to compete with this team for one more year. But the problem is with no draft capital, no quarterbacks to move, I don't know how you can get running backs to really compete for a title. Dan, your turn.
I got to challenge Mitch there, JB.
Okay.
You could be like the tiebreaker here for Nick's roster. I really like Nick's roster. I think the running back is a concern. Like, I think he's got to figure out the running back. Hopefully Mostert could stay healthier for a full year because he flashed like he could be a stud back. It's only a short window. It is Dynasty. Kareem Hunt's still in a platoon. Drake still got some question marks. So he's got to solidify running back. That could be a fragile position. But Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts, he's got two young stud quarterbacks. So I don't know what I'm blowing up, Mitch. That's where the challenge comes from.
Hurts might not start all year next year. There is a possibility to where he isn't the starting quarterback all year.
Stop it, Mitch. Unless Peterson says I'm keeping Carson Wentz and does something dysfunctional. I mean, which he can, but Hurts is going to be the man. He's got to be the man. They believe in him in Philadelphia. He flashed. He's young. I just think he has two young quarterbacks that are super talented. He's got a great receiving core. I think if he could leverage that, if he could keep his receivers strong and leverage some kind of trade with those receivers to make his roster younger, fix the running back position, or get some draft capital. But he's going to get new draft picks here in 2022. He's got a stud tight end in Andrews. He's got depth at tight end, maybe even trades for Hurst or an Ebron. But he's got some pieces he could trade, and he's got draft picks coming. So I don't see a blow-it-up roster here. JB, do you see this as a blow-it-up roster if it doesn't quite pan out this year?
After this year.
Nah, why would you just blow it up if you have draft picks coming? And you still, your picks are young. I'm not saying he doesn't have to make moves. I just think blow it up's harsh.
Now, blow it up, no. But I'm clearly in the middle of you two. I think, Nick, he has a middle-of-the-road team here. Obviously, Jalen Hurts, his value is rising. Kyler Murray, people have him as a top 3 quarterback. I certainly have him in that big tier behind Patrick Mahomes. There's going to be little room. The way I looked at this is, where can we make moves based on value and the guys that we think we can get a solid return? And that's why, for me, I looked at Devontae Adams and Dalvin Cook. And for Mitch, I looked at A.J. Brown. Now, for Nick, I think the pieces are very clear. There were 3 of them based on early startups and perceived value that we've seen people talk about. Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, Mark Andrews. You don't have to move all 3. So I'm not saying blow it up. But if you can split up Kyler Murray into, I'm just going to pull names out, like a Stafford and a running back, or a Aaron Rodgers and a running back, something like that you can split up one of these high-end assets into multiple pieces. I think that might be the way to go. Sure, you could ride it out. You could try to find some lower tier guys. You could move those 2022 picks when they become available. Maybe you get a Chris Carson type player. You'll have to pry him off of Dan's dead hands, though, because you're not getting Chris Carson for cheap. But I think those are the types of moves to make. And it looks good in 2021. But beyond that, how does that wide receiver core look? Antonio Brown, Julio Jones. I I don't know. But then, like Dan said, maybe you could leverage Eric Ebron, Hayden Hurst. I just don't know how much in return you're going to get, even though this is a tight end premium league.
A lot of different takes for Nick, man. We'll see what he says after he listens to the podcast.
He's gonna listen to this and say, JB, shut up. I'm not moving Kyler Murray. I'm not moving Jalen Hurts. I'm not moving Mark Andrews. Go to hell.
Which leads us perfect into the next team, because I know Zach, and Zach is not going to move Mahomes or Watson.
Well, there goes my advice for the team, especially whenever you have a team with the names of the players in the team name, Mahomes and Watson. So he has Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson. Running back could look okay in 2021. Ronald Jones, James Robinson, and then Jamal Williams, DJ Dallas, potentially as depth pieces. Tyreek Hill, Chase Claypool, Nelson Aguilar. Not much depth there. And then you have Hunter Henry, Rob Gronkowski, Albert O. But you have the 112, and then you're going to have some 2022 picks. So I don't think this team is really in trouble. When I look at it, I have him back-to-back with Nick. So I have them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. But again, they're all really close together in the middle. So besides Dan,
you forgot Hollywood Brown on his roster.
Did I?
I don't think that was an accident, to be honest.
No, I forget Hollywood.
Oh, wow, JB, is there something we don't know here about Hollywood? Is this a little?
No, I would never talk bad about Hollywood.
That's a big difference there. That's a big difference.
Yeah, did I really forget him?
Mm-hmm. That little M. Brown snuck in on you, man. Because that greatly spikes his wide receivers to.
Yeah, so okay,
helps out his depth quite a bit, to be honest with you.
It does. So that's going to bump him up, I think, to 5, in that range right there. But I apologize. I apologize to Zach. I apologize to Jung. I apologize to the whole Hollywood Brown family. My sincerest apologies. Okay. Anyway, Dan, what are your thoughts on this team?
This is another really interesting team. The end of the first round, he goes at 1-1-2. What could he do with that 12th pick? I'm not sure. The running back position is one where I'd be trying to strengthen. Rojo's encouraging what he did this year. Hopefully he could build on that. It'll be something to watch. James Robinson, a lot of optimism there. Jamal Williams will be interesting. I'm really curious to see what happens with Aaron Jones, if Green Bay ponies up or if they decide to go in a different direction with Williams and Dillon.
Well, Williams is a free agent too.
Yeah. So hey, he looks good. I mean, something's got to give there in that running back situation. So I'll be really interested to watch how that goes. But his quarterbacks are the best, the creme de la creme, man. Like that, it can't get any more exciting than that. And then when you have Tyreek and the promise of Claypool and Hollywood, solid tight ends, he's got a contender here with some draft capital. He just got to manage his team wisely and not trade out of contention like I did.
It's 112. Could that be Kenneth Gainwell territory?
I was just going to bring up, I think.
Could it?
Zach's biggest hope here is to keep the 112 and I'm guessing it's going to be the running back 4. So Williams is probably going to be gone. Same with Harris and ETN. So after that, whether it's Gainwell, Carter, Sermon, whoever it ends up being, I know you don't like him, but whoever the running back 4 ends up being, I think this is a pretty locked in pick for me because wide receiver is really good. Having a little bit of running back depth would make this team. I mean, I'm pretty sure he finished well in the playoffs. And so I think moving forward, he's definitely going to be fine.
And he gets a running back like that in the first, then he uses a second round pick to maybe get a wide receiver. Those positions, he's building the depth he needs to around the anchors of quarterback and tight end that he has.
There's going to be a lot of good wide receivers left in the top 24 picks too.
I have a few of them. And I always butcher names, but Olave from Ohio State. Amon-Ra St. Brown, that's a mouthful. USC. Yep. But those are 2 guys that I really like that are going to be falling into second rounds of drafts. Obviously, with this being 14 teams, they'll get pushed up in the second. But there's like a tier of 4 wide receivers that, I mean, honestly, I know he has the name recognition, but Rondell Moore is somebody. I was
going to bring him up. Rondell Moore could be there too.
Yeah, he could be in the second, especially in this league of 4 quarterbacks. Pitts and Freiermuth go in the first round, those wide receivers could be there. So Zach, he has the potential to land a gem, and the Hollywood Brown oversight that definitely changes the wide receiver core a little bit. So if we could add one more running back, if you want to diversify your portfolio and split up Mahomes and Watson, just one of them into multiple assets, typically I'm one to get depth. If you look at my team in this league, you'll say, yeah, you missed out on that one. All right, so I have Zach right there in the upper middle. Is it my turn here, Dan?
Take it easy on me. I'm a little sensitive.
I said there was one team below me and Mitch.
Oh, it's me.
It's Dan. But and I'm not even kidding. I didn't even go in. This is no surprise. Look at our teams. They're shit. But I didn't even go into this thinking, oh, I'm just going to put us at the bottom. I don't want people to be like, oh, they're just picking their team to be ahead of everyone. I did not even look at the names. And when I had the scoring down, we came out at the very bottom. So, Dan, quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo, you have to fill your quarterback 2 position because I'm under the assumption that Cam Newton will not be a starter in the NFL in 2021. Jimmy Garoppolo, we're not even sure if he's going to be a starter for San Francisco. A lot of people, they are talking about Zach Wilson going to San Francisco via the draft. So we'll see. You have 2 running backs, neither of which have tremendous trade value at this point. Chris Carson, Zeke Elliott. Wide receiver is your only glimmer of hope. Keenan Allen, Cole Beasley, John Brown, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, T.Y. Hilton, Sterling Shepard. So more than enough usable pieces there. But then again, trying to think of trade opportunities and bargaining chips, you're not getting anything for a lot of those receivers right now. Even Amari Cooper, you're not getting much for him. So I think it's a hold for everybody across the board. Tight end, Tyler Higbee. Oh, man. Missed on Tyler Higbee. We all did. All 3 of us did here. Dalton Schultz looked very good in 2020, but what happens when Blake Jarwin comes back? What happens if they do target a tight end in the draft? You are crippled, and you have no picks. I don't know what you are going to do. I can't even come up with a suggestion for you, Dan.
Oh, it's so depressing, and it's so fair. It's yeah, I got issues, guys. I got issues, and I've got to figure my way out of this. For anyone listening, you're looking for that missing piece for your roster. My mistake was trading Dak Prescott when he was injured, trying to stay in this league. I should have hung tight. I didn't get enough for him. I panicked a little bit here, just wanting to win so bad. But I'm looking to trade pieces. I do have pieces at running back and receiver that could help somebody. That 2022 draft capital is coming up, a little combo deal for some draft capital this year and next. I think we could work something out. So, I'm open for invites, for offers.
And I'm right there with you. I'm highly critical of your team, but Mitch and I are not far off. But yeah, I mean, Zeke, and these might be players that you look to move whenever the season comes around. It might be a sit and wait situation because we've seen Zeke drop to the 5th and 6th round of Superflex startups to start this early offseason. But your saving grace would be if Cam Newton happens to start in 2021.
Yep.
My quarterbacks are what I'm most nervous about.
Yes.
Garoppolo and Newton kind of land somewhere else. I even got even more work to do, and it becomes more of a quicker rebuild. Zeke, I really think Zeke's going to be okay, not just for this league, but just in general and being a Cowboys fan, not being a homer. But I do think he's been battling injuries, and their offensive run blocking is not good, whether it's for Zeke or Pollard. I mean, everything that those 2 guys are doing are based on effort. Obviously their passing game's so good, it takes some pressure off the run game, but they're going to get all of their offensive line back. They're going to have a draft. Dak's going to be back. I think Zeke's going to be fine next year, and he's getting drafted really late, as we've talked about in startups, where I think you can get some value in Zeke.
I think, Mitch, I'll turn it over to you in a sec, but I think a really good, valuable dynasty lesson here is be aware of the other teams in the league. And this isn't a knock on you, Dan, because I do the same thing at times, but be realistic. You traded Dak because you were trying to make that push when clearly you had some more work to do. Just be very aware of moves like that. And I've done it. I have a trade involving Dak that I lose sleep at night because of it. So just be aware of the other teams in your league and be more realistic.
Yeah, I think in our 2 episodes ago in Dynasty Theory, we talked about our mistakes and process. Our 100th episode, we talked about our successes. But in my mistakes, I think I have made one bad trade each year, like one that was just panic situation. And I've got to be more mindful about that later in the year. And I know you're grinning because one was to you last year with Kamara for Carson and Ingram. Even though it's had ups and downs for both of us, just in process and theory, it was not the right move for me to make. So I've got to stop making that one bad move and just be patient and live with, hey, if this team's not going to contend this year, it's okay. That's why we have multiple dynasty teams. It's those other ones that got to win and we profit in the end. So patience is a virtue.
Dan's best friend is a dynasty league trade deadline because it saves him from himself. All right, Mitch, anything really quick on Dan before we move on to Justin?
Terrible. Second worst team in the league.
Wait, was I the worst?
No, I was the worst.
Oh, good. Okay. All right.
Yeah, my running backs have no saving grace.
No, we'll see how it goes. Hopefully we can start to transform these messes. If we combine all 3 teams, I still don't think we win this league.
Nope.
I don't think we do.
We got work to do, boys.
We don't have any running backs.
I'm Dalvin. All right, so looking at Justin, Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, James Conner, Leonard Fournette, a power duo of DeAndre Swift and Jonathan Taylor, a solid wide receiver core, a lot of depth, a lot of young pieces, Robbie Anderson, Corey Davis, Mecole Hardman, Jerry Jeudy, Christian Kirk, CeeDee Lamb, Tim Patrick, Jalen Reagor, Henry Ruggs, Cortland Sutton, Darnell Mooney, and then Johnny Smith at tight end. He does have the 113, and then obviously our 2022 picks. I have something that I would like to see him do, but Mitch, I want to start with you. What are your thoughts on this team and maybe a suggestion?
My notes actually call this one quarterback hell because the rest of the team, you look at it, you're like, it's pretty good. Look at Sam Darnold. He might start somewhere next year, but he has like a 1-year prove it deal. Like Cam Newton, like tons of guys we can mention. Daniel Jones is on that same thing. Daniel Jones can be out of a job in 2022. So when I look at that first, it's the 1.13. I'm like, that's not going to get you a quarterback. So how are you going to be able to bolster your quarterbacks? Because that would be the one thing I would want to do. You don't want to move Swift. You don't want to move Taylor. So then you're going to have to go and look at your wide receivers, but they're such good young talent that you don't want to take a loss on them by moving them now if they could have a really good year next year. So that's why I kind of called it quarterback hell, because I'm kind of like, maybe I wait till June or July and see how they pan out and then make a move with this team.
For me, it was looking at this wide receiver core, maybe looking at some of these rebuilding teams, Mitch, Dan, and myself, and see if you could package some of these receivers, a Christian Kirk and a Jalen Reagor, for example, and you can pair that with a 2022 first, and you can get a quarterback. Maybe you can package up and get a Matt Ryan off of a team that has absolutely no chance in hell, aka me. But like Mitch said, you're not going to.
You weren't getting that much from Matt Ryan, dude.
Yeah, I know. There's some lint here I think I could get, but you're not going to move Swift. You're not going to move Taylor. My only other thought, and you can't move Johnny Smith unless you're getting another tight end in return, but it is January 5th, so you're not setting a lineup anytime soon, so there is some time there. My only other thought, you have the 113. You're not getting. I mean, you can probably get a Mac Jones there, depending on, I think maybe we see really late first round draft capital, early second in the NFL draft. But what if he pairs that 113 with like the 2022 first to move up and get a Zach Wilson or a Trey Lance?
I think that's very smart because you don't want to reach on like a quarterback just to get a quarterback, and then you're passing up some stud running back or receiver that you could have had and you're going to regret forever. So I wouldn't panic, but I think your advice there to trade up and get a quarterback that you has a legit chance to pan out would be a good strategy.
And I'm only going to mention, because you just brought it up, paying attention to the other teams in the league. The next team we're going to talk about doesn't have anything, and they have the 103, 105, 108, 109, and I could see them using a pick on all the quarterbacks. So there's nothing left.
Yeah, nothing's going to be left. So you do definitely have to be mindful of that. I touch on his receivers though, man. What a nice
Yeah.
collection of young talent, man.
Looks
Got to
really good.
compliment him. He's probably at home when he listens to this. He'll be blushing and all proud there, and his wide receiver trophy case. It's a thing of beauty. But I think how he manages them is going to be important because you can't play them all. You've got to really be able to evaluate talent here. I think some of these guys aren't going to pan out. I think some are going to exceed expectations, and he's going to be thrilled. He's got a beautiful receiver room. What he does with that will be important. There's definitely some trade pieces here, depending on what you believe and who you believe in.
He really just needs like 2 or 3 of them to pop. CeeDee Lamb, no matter what happens in 2021, he's going to be a top 12 dynasty receiver in 2022. Even if he gets injured and misses the whole season, knock on wood, I hope that doesn't happen because I have a lot of Lamb.
What's up with that?
Well, why are you messing with me like that, man?
No, I said knock on wood, so I can say anything after that. That's fine. It's like when people say, no offense, but I said no offense. I can say anything. But let's say Rager pops off. Sutton really gets back to form. And there's Judy there as well. If one of them take off in Denver, maybe that's the opportunity then to move them. If Corey Davis lands in Green Bay or Houston because he is going to be a free agent, boom, instant value spike, at least perceived value spike. But I think those are some moves. And I think overall Justin is in decent shape, just maybe not necessarily at quarterback. 2 young quarterbacks that I really liked at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But,
I think he has time on Daniel Jones because at least the Giants are invested in him for a little while. But long-term, he's got to answer because there's definitely concerns about that. And then Darnold, he's in limbo right now. So he's got to get options. He's got to get depth.
All right, so Zeb.
Our boy.
I love what he did here, and it's so funny because I'm in so many leagues with him. It is so funny seeing what he did in 2019 versus 2020. 2019, he was gung-ho, give me those championships. And then we kind of saw a transition. Something just switched in Zeb's mind. And we've seen Zeb in the group chats. I don't want to get in that mind. Who knows what the heck he's thinking?
One of the funniest guys in chats ever.
Of course I'm giving him a hard time here. But these picks are a thing of beauty. 103, 105, 108, 109, 114, 6 seconds. So, quarterback, we're looking to improve there. Running back, he only has Phillip Lindsay. Wide receiver, Tyler Boyd, DJ Shark, Denzel Mims, Michael Pittman. As is, that's not a horrendous wide receiver room right there. And then you have Gerald Everett, Cole Kmet, Blake Jarwin. So potential upside there at tight end. But Mitch, I'll turn it over to you. These are my thoughts on those picks. Let's say he doesn't move any of them. I wouldn't move any of them now. No. But that could be Najee Harris, Jamar Chase, Wilson or Lance, Javonte or Michael Carter, Rashad Bateman, Kyle Pitts is an option too. There are so many possibilities. And then landing the St. Browns, the Olave, those guys, like that in the second round. This team could be a contender, I think, in 2021, depending on how those picks pan out and if he chooses to use them or move them.
Yeah, I'd like to just trade rosters with them. Zeta, on air tonight, I'm making an offer. I'm offering you my entire roster for your entire roster and your picks, because at least you could rebuild. During the year, I'm like, what on earth is Zeb doing, man? He's got like Phillip Lindsay, and that's it. And then you see Locke and Winston, and it's kind of scary. I have nightmares at night there. But then you see the talent of the receivers, you see the upside of the tight ends. Hopefully Everett goes and signs somewhere or gets a role to himself. We'll see how that pans out. But then 5 first-round draft picks, there's a plan. So we'll see how he does with those draft picks. But Zeb's got a vision that I could see here.
So I'll actually disagree a little bit on how you said to use the draft picks. I think this team is at least a year away, if not more, because if he wants to trade up to get Fields or Lawrence, it's going to cost a lot of those picks. So it's just kind of, you just shouldn't do it sort of thing. Now, when you look at the 103, I don't want Harris, who's 23. I mean, I know it's kind of going to be the running joke, but on this team, I don't agree with getting Harris at the 103.
Or Etienne. It was just an example.
I'm actually not. I don't think you should get running backs. I really don't think so. I think if you went Chase, you go Smith, you go Pitts, and then at the 109, whatever quarterback is left, you pick him at the 109. That's how I would go about it with this team.
But here's my thing, and yes, it was quite different in 2020, but we know people use those early round picks, those early firsts on running backs because there is a better chance they pop off earlier.
It's true.
There is. So that's my only thing. If he would take a Harris or an ETN and landing spot could sway me one way or the other because I have them in the same tier right now. But depending on where they go, if Najee Harris comes to Pittsburgh and James Conner is not extended, you can move Najee Harris for 94 first-round picks, I think.
How many times am I going to have to hear this whole Najee Harris go into Pittsburgh thing? I mean,
I don't think it happens. I'm saying, what if?
Hey, Pittsburgh better fix their O-line right now, man, because Dalvin Cook's not running behind that line right now. It's so bad. They are so pass happy, and that is not Pittsburgh Steeler football. It's what a difference.
I have Zeb bottom 5 right now, but I have him highlighted and one other person highlighted. Zeb could be top 5 in April or May.
April of this year?
In May. In May, I think so. Depending on how those picks are used, he doesn't have to draft players.
I know.
He's still got a lot of work. I'm leaning a little more Mitch's side. I think it's more of a 2-year project. It's not an overnight thing here, but he's got tools to work with. He's got tools, John. Tools.
Now, because we're going to start to get some of these teams that are like really well balanced already, that still have picks that I'd kind of be worried about a little bit going.
Yeah, because this is a deep league, John. If it was like a 12-teamer, I say he could turn it around quicker. But you need depth in this league too, and it's going to take him some time to build some depth.
He has the picks available. You don't have to use the draft picks on players. You can move them.
But he doesn't have quarterbacks. He doesn't have running backs. You can only move 5 picks so far.
In the 6 seconds.
Yeah, you could use seconds because. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because those are going to get you quarterbacks.
So Zeb, what John is saying is he has ranked your roster higher than his tonight. He's saying you have a lot of potential to be a contender right away. He is offering his entire roster for your entire roster and picks. That's what you're saying, JB.
And I will pay your league fee next year. And for Christmas next year, Zeb, I'll order a honey baked ham and have it shipped to your house.
Those are expensive.
Is that in the league rules? I don't think you could do that.
Honey baked hams are like $180.
No, he's getting one of those little ones.
Oh, all right. I'm like, those things are pricey, man.
No, I made this terrible bet. I have to lay in it, and I have to turn things around. So Zeb, I'm a little more optimistic. Whenever my birthday, it is in December, so it just passed. But next year, if you want to send me something for being so kind, by all means. Now we're going to the back-to-back champ.
Yep.
TJ. I love this team in 2021. Josh Allen, Tom Brady, Kamara, Miles Sanders, Mike Evans, Justin Jefferson, Ridley, Allen Robinson, Travis Kelce, Robert Tonyan, no picks. But this is a team, and this is the way TJ does it. He does such a great job. We see it time and time again where he's able to move injured players for players that give him a chance to compete each and every year. And wide receivers, he doesn't have to make a move there. He is okay for a 3-year outlook. The question is that quarterback too, unless Tom Brady plays until he's 50. So what do we do at that point in time? I think TJ at that point, he might target an Aaron Rodgers who could be 37 or 38 whenever Brady's done. A Matt Ryan who's 35, 36. Maybe that older veteran that isn't going to be too expensive, or a quarterback slips to him with a 2022 first, but we all know TJ probably isn't going to have any picks in 2022.
Yeah, I was just going to bring up, I hate to say this team's really good. There's not much to say, but there really isn't a lot to say. The only thing I would say, like you brought up with Brady, is since this team's based off points, the potential points, it's going to be a bottom 3 pick, right? Next year, pretty much no matter what. So I would immediately move that pick with Tom Brady and just try to get the youngest quarterback that I have faith in that I could.
It's a good point there.
If we're looking at other contenders and we're going to get to his team in a minute, maybe that doesn't make too much sense.
I was gonna say like TJ, like my son got a dartboard for Christmas, and I have like a TJ cutout in the middle of the dartboard because his teams are haunting me, man. Like our 16-team beer league, 2 years in a row he knocked me out. Last year was in the third place game, semifinals. This year was in the championship, and I had an undefeated team, my favorite team. I was so proud of it. I was, wanted that one really bad, and he goes and trades CMC for Kamara, and Kamara goes off like the performance of a lifetime. So kudos to TJ, man. He's a sharp owner there. He's a wheeler and dealer, and he's got a solid roster here that, it's got some risk in it, not having draft picks, and Miles Sanders is in a little bit of a fragile situation there in Philly. Brady's age is a question. So there are some questions that, does he have the depth here without the draft capital if things don't go right or if the injury bug hit, those kind of things. But he's got really stud pieces where if he plays his cards right, he could trade himself into any kind of good situation, I think.
We've known TJ, I think, for 3 years, and every year in every league, I've even told him this. I'm like, oh, you're going to have issues because you don't have depth. Somehow, he makes it through. He's the only person that makes it through with only 10 players on a roster, and I've never seen it before.
Every year.
It's unbelievable. So I need to look at the players he drafts because typically they don't get injured. TJ has like this certain power over these players. And, I don't know if he's, he has a doctor friend that performs some things, maybe, I don't want to say steroids. I don't want to say that, but,
TJ's got it in with Dr. Chow, man. Like he's got some intel that we're not getting.
Yeah.
So kudos.
So fixing the quarterback to beyond 2021 and then trying to add some type of running back depth, but we know that could be taken care of with a lower tier player. We talk about JD McKissick, somebody that like that for 2021.
He'll find a way. He'll find a guy for those weak spots.
I have TJ. This might be surprising. I have TJ. I have him tied for third.
I could see it.
Tied for third. And the big thing that came into play was the shaky quarterback, the running back depth, and shaky quarterback beyond 2021. Let me clarify. And then the pick situation. Next up, somebody that is tied with TJ in my rankings, the better John, the Aaron Rodgers experience. Quarterback, Justin Herbert, Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love. We're okay there. Running back, Myles Gaskin, Lev Bell, Damian Harris, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones. We're good there. Brandon Cooks, Cooper Kupp, Adam Thielen. We're decent there. I would like a little bit more depth if possible. And then Evan Ingram, Adam Troutman, we're fine there. No picks, though. But again, Mitch, what are your thoughts here? Because it's very similar to TJ almost.
Yeah, to me, this is the second best team in the league. There's depth everywhere. I think the only mesma might be Evan Ingram, but I really think his ceiling's still fine. Like, I'm still okay having him on my teams. He might not have that trade value now, but as far as going into next year with him as my tight end, I'm pretty happy with it. And looking at everything else, quarterback room is great. Running back room with Jacobs and Henry and Jones, completely fine. Cooks, Kupp, and Thielen, perfect. It's getting kind of older, so that's kind of thing, but it's not getting old enough to where I would even worry about it. Like, it's on the horizon, but it's like 2 years off, so you can push it down the road. So this is another team to where we always know someone in this league is going to have a whole bunch of firsts. More than likely, the good John with no H is going to trade his 22nd first to someone to pick up just a little bit more depth, maybe in that tight end room.
Tight end, wide receiver. The only thing I would say, it is getting to that point. It's decision time for Aaron Rodgers. The way this team is built, I would be shocked if he even looked to move him. Mm-hmm. But it's getting to the point where, do we ride it out? Do we ride that into the sunset? And maybe we do for the next 3-4 years. Dan?
Yeah, he's riding it out with Jordan Love right behind him, so that's kind of smart there. I love his running back depth. It definitely gives him options there. Just super thin at receiver. I just think, to compete with TJ, who has Kelsey, and I'm surprised you didn't emphasize that more, Mitch, with TJ's roster there in the tight end premium. That's just huge in itself. But he's just got to find wide receiver depth somewhere because he is relying on Brandon Cooks being healthy again. any injuries to that receiver core, and he doesn't have a lot there. So he's definitely riding those running backs. Hopefully Gaskin could build on some of the flash he has. We'll see what Miami does with the running back situation. Same thing with Harris. Hopefully he could build on that. Hopefully Josh Jacobs stops getting in trouble and crashing cars, and we'll see what happens with Aaron Jones. But a lot of potential there, and he could move things, whether it's a running back or, like you're mentioning, John, with Rodgers, if he wants to package Rodgers and Love and get himself still a really good quarterback, but help him out at the receiver position or get some draft capital, he could do something. And Herbert, what a nice find. Him and Jung, man, they did a great job of building their rosters back up. Really good job.
Absolutely. What do you guys think of this? So we talked about Justin's wide receiver depth. Mm-hmm. A trade, for example, a Corey Davis for Myles Gaskin and Damian Harris, something like that. No, I'm just throwing names out there. But
yeah. I mean, that's a fair trade.
I know a guy. I just want to say that I know a guy that has, Keenan Allen and some Michael Gallups and Coopers and, some wide receiver depth, man, where it might be able to do something here, for future draft capital and some players. So I know a guy.
Dan, you actually, your team is built even an unsexy name like Sterling Shepard, who is just constantly disrespected, but he will produce. That's a target I think John could look at. Looking at Nick's team, maybe Antonio Brown just for 2021, depending on what happens there in Tampa Bay. And then
careful there with him, though, because Court's going to come up next year, I believe. So I know he's going to start the season with them, but just got to be careful.
That's a good point. And then the expectation, just talking about Court, Melvin Gordon might miss a few games because he had the DUI. Josh Jacobs, I'm assuming that would come up here in the offseason. So we'll see what happens there. But listen, I have Jamison Crowder. I think that could make sense here. John, throw some of that draft capital you have in 2022.
And Adam Gase is gone.
We could work something there. But I really like what John did there with that roster. And, some room for improvement. But overall, I have him tied with TJ as my 3 and 4 right there. Moving on to Luke, we have Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, Andy Dalton, Cam Akers, Tariq Cohen, Joe Mixon, Beckham, Landry, Parker, Debo Samuel, Zach Ertz, and George Kittle. And then there is a 2021 second. Mitch, thoughts here?
I want to speak on what he did in the last month. The moves he made were brilliant. So he moved A.J. Brown for George Kittle November 5th. November 21st, he moves Miles Sanders for Joe Mixon. That's, whoever you like there, no big deal. December 20th, he moves Brandon Cooks and Adam Thielen, gets Parker and Debo Samuel. Really smart move dynasty-wise. And then December 23rd, he moves David Montgomery for Cam Akers. Really, really smart dynasty moves, in my opinion.
All of them across the board. The only one that, the Joe Mixon, Miles Sanders one. But I think he picked up value everywhere else. I love David Montgomery. I'm still taking Cam Akers over him for dynasty purposes. I love Adam Thielen and Brandon Cooks, but Debo Samuel, Devontae Parker, from a dynasty perspective, it's certainly a better fit for Luke's team. And then if he wanted to, he could diversify and split up George Kittle, who is a top 8 asset in this format, who I was dumb enough to give up in a trade involving Austin Hooper. Damn it.
There's no way I'm trading George Kittle off this team. There's just no way. That is his anchor, his rock, if things don't go right, he has George Kittle. I'm going to try to figure out how to improve this roster to that next level a different way. And here's my concern here. I think his team is in some way like an underrated, disrespected team. Like he's built it solid. He's got balance at all these 3 positions. But it's like Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins. You're nervous about them every season, for better or for worse. And again, we saw the potential in Carr, and he had a solid year. But there's still questions there in Vegas. Cousins, he did solid again this year. Hopefully he'll continue to be solid. But like that wide receiver group is I'm worried about the health. Like Beckham, injuries keep popping up. Landry's injury popping up. Parker, injuries keep popping up. Debo Samuel, injuries keep popping up. And I'm not saying they're all going to be injured, because they're talented guys that anyone will take. I think he's got a good receiving core, but that's got to be a concern that he's got all his receivers have injury questions. And it's the same thing with Mixon and Cohen. So it's a little bit of health concerns there that I think he's got to keep an eye on. And if he could just strengthen his roster to not have to worry about that a little bit, it'll be helpful.
And I think we can see similar type moves if Derek Carr is the starter in Vegas in 2021. Maybe a deal, if Luke sees he's not competing. I don't want to say throw in the towel. We're here in January, so don't do that quite yet. But maybe Derek Carr plus, Zach Ertz, if he lands somewhere that people are like, oh, that's intriguing, something where he can package up some of those older players, really similar moves to what we just saw from him over the last 2 months.
Yeah, I
love what he did with this team. Really smart.
Ertz might be a guy to roll the dice and trade. Again, it might be tough to do as well with his value. He says he wants to return to Philadelphia, which would concern me for fantasy if that's the case, because Dallas Goedert's clearly the guy. But if Philadelphia said, no, we're going in a different direction, then he's got some value there depending on where he lands.
Yeah. And then we can always see the rise in value for Joe Mixon, who TJ gets so upset about the Joe Mixon disrespect. And he said, I'm going to have more shares of Joe Mixon than I've ever had. And in our most recent draft we're in the middle of, he took Joe Mixon, I think, in the 4th round. Mm-hmm. And as I saw Joe Mixon, I was like, it had to be TJ. And I saw TJ's name. So it really fit his brand. All right, Chris, a big blockbuster move just a few days ago.
Yep.
Dak Prescott, he gave up the 101. I had no issues. And that was with Jung. I had no issues with it either way. That it was a trade I didn't bat an eye.
Yeah, no. Dak Prescott for Justin Fields is a really good trade, I think.
Oh,
hey-yo.
Very funny. All right, so Chris is sitting with Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, running back room of Nick Chubb, J.K. Dobbins, Austin Eckler, Naheem Hines, James White, Deontay Johnson, Marvin Jones, Robert Woods, Preston Williams, Noah Fant, my man, Darren Waller. I have this team coming in at number 2.
Yep.
I think it's a really solid team. Obviously, there's the concern with the limited draft capital in 2021, but pieces in this offense on this team, I don't know that there's much that needs to be done. You're set at quarterback. There's no issue there. One of the best quarterback rooms in the league here with Russ and Dak. 3 top 15 running backs. Wide receiver could be a little bit better, but we know how much depth there is at the position. Heck, pick up a Cole Beasley when the season rolls around, and you'll be okay. And then you have Darren Waller, who is going to lead you to the promised land.
And Noah Fant,
right.
Top 6 tight end as well. So, yeah, looking at this team, the great thing about it is he could actually just sit until August. Nick Chubb is going to be really valuable still. J.K. Dobbins is going to be really valuable still. So if there is an injury or he has anything happen, he has these great pieces that he can end up moving if he wants to. I think this is a really, really good team.
And as long as Ben comes back, I think Deontay Johnson's value is going to be insulated, and especially with the thought that Juju is going to be elsewhere in 2021. And then if Preston Williams comes back healthy, Marvin Jones, who knows where he ends up, but he's looked solid this year without Kenny Golladay in the lineup. And then Robert Woods, just another man that's on the all disrespect team who produces year in, year out. So I think, Chris, I know a lot of people like to think it's not actionable advice, but being patient here and sitting might be your best route. Dan, do you have any other thoughts?
No, I agree. He's probably is sitting and hoping like a Preston Williams, or he also has Darius Slayton on his bench if the Giants could figure things out. If he just get a little diamond in the rough somewhere, some lucky find at wide receiver to bolster his depth, that'd be great. But I wouldn't press to do it. He's got a solid roster everywhere else.
Yeah, like I said, I have Chris at number 2. So really, really nice job there, Chris. All right, Deo.
Our boy Deo, man. Jerry Rice is better than Terrell Owens and Randy Moss and everybody else. We have some great debates with Deo there, and I appreciate his DFS invites every week.
Can I say really quick a public apology, because I did feel bad, and it got me on a bad day, but when I was like, Deo, you just want to be contrarian. And I think it was with like the George Kittle contract. Nobody else is still thinking about this, but I remember like everything. And it's so weird the things I remember. But Dale, what a passionate guy in the chat. And I appreciate that because it makes it so entertaining. But look at his roster. Teddy Bridgewater, Matthew Stafford, Mitchell Trubisky, Antonio Gibson, David Johnson, Tony Pollard, Devin Singletary, AJ, Derrick Henry Jr., Dylan, Brandon Ayuk, Russell Gage, AJ Green, Jalen Guyton, KJ Hamler, Colin Johnson, Alan Lazard, Tyler Lockett, Anthony Miller, Curtis Samuel, Dawson Knox, Dan Orlow, Drew Sample, Logan Thomas. And then we have some really nice draft capital, 104, 106, 110. Can I give my thoughts here really quick? Before turning it over, Deo is in the same boat as Zeb here. I have him as a bottom 5 team, but even though you guys weren't overly optimistic, I think he could be a huge riser. There's also the potential for the slow build here. And whereas Zeb, I think he wants to maybe turn around a little bit quicker just by playing in several leagues with him. But for Deo, the 104, that could be a Travis Etienne. The 106, that could be a quarterback, Lance or Wilson. And then the 110, I love Rashad Bateman this year. I think he is my wide receiver 2 as we sit here early January. So I think there are things that can be done. And then just like we talked about with Justin, the wide receiver depth, there's pieces he can move here. And he has the second as well, add more to that wide receiver depth. But I think he could be, I'm not saying top of the line, but he could be a playoff team in 2021. Dan, throw the flag at me.
I got to throw the flag. I got to challenge you. He's ahead of Zeb as far as being able to, because all he has to do is draft better than Zeb, and he's got so many more pieces to compete sooner and longer.
Can we put a wager down? Can we put a bet down here on this review?
It depends who they draft, though. That's the key. Like him and Zeb, he needs to outdraft Zeb. If he outdrafts Zeb, because Zeb drafts before him with three first picks, he's got like the upper hand Zeb a little bit. But there's a lot more. There's a lot more tools in the shed here, JB. That my concern
doesn't have to draft. How many times do I have to say it?
Okay, I know, John.
Players he's got. Zeb doesn't have players at quarterback.
All I will say is we could ask in the chat if Zeb is going to try to compete in 2021, and I can guarantee you his answer is going to be no.
Okay, and as soon as we are done here, actually,
I know you will.
Mitch, can you get in there right now? Actually, tag him. Say, Zebediah, are you looking to compete here in 2021? Now, if he's not, then it's all irrelevant.
But right.
When I look at Deo's roster, I'm concerned about quarterback. I love Matthew Stafford still. Again, hopefully Detroit, especially for your sanity, Mitch, could make some good hires in the front office and head coach and staff and get things right and not waste the rest of Stafford's career. But Trubisky, you know how I feel about him. It's not good. Bridgewater, I'm losing faith by the minute there. I don't think he's the long-term answer, but we'll see what happens in Carolina. So I think he's got to get answers at quarterback. He's got a building block in Gibson at running back. I am concerned about the running back because they're all like guys you want on your roster for depth, but I'm not sure any of them is going to rise to that level. Hopefully they will for him. We'll see what happens with Pollard and Dylan. Receiver, he's got some nice pieces in Ayuk, Lockett, and Samuel. And then we got to see what happens with the rest of the receivers. But he's got upside there, JB. He's got a lot of pieces that some guys are going to surprise us, I think, and pan out, and he can make some moves. And he's got my boy Dawson Knox.
Well, that running back room, at least at the top, I think it's going to be okay with Antonio Gibson, potentially Travis Etienne, if that's the direction he goes with that 104.
And your boy Logan Thomas there too, man. If you count week 17, he's one of the he's up there with the Wallers of the world this year.
Nobody's up there with Darren Waller. Even Travis Kelce, who was above Darren Waller, isn't up there with Darren Waller. That makes no sense. But Dale, I like what you do with your team. I'm probably overly optimistic with you and Zeb, but I have faith that you guys, whether you use the pick on rookies or you move them, that's up to you. But we'll see what Zeb's looking to do here because I am interested to see that. Deo, I think, again, the potential for the slow build and keep this rolling, but I do think that he could make the playoffs and sneak in there, and then all bets are off when we get to the playoffs.
Oh, wait. That says hell no, just so you know.
Come on,
That was in
Zeb.
the DM.
Leave it as
Oh, it was a DM?
Yeah.
Zeb.
Yeah, we usually only talk in GIFs. Whenever we do a trade, it's like a GIF back and forth based off each offer. So it actually goes pretty well that way.
I love using GIFs, but Zeb. Okay, so my 10-minute rant, we can erase that from your memory. It's like Men in Black, the little beep. Yeah, Zeb, you're still bottom 5 for me. All right. Anyway, Anthony, he texted me. It was right before the championship, I think, right before week 16. And he made a big trade, and I can't remember what it was, but he said, I just changed the championship game. And I can't remember the exact trade, but I think it was involving Joe Burrow, possibly. Mitch, I think you're pulling it up right now.
I'm trying to. Yeah, 1 second.
But looking at his roster really quick, the quarterback depth is really strong. Jared Goff, Taysom Hill, we'll see what happens. Baker Mayfield.
He was the Camaro CMC with TJ. He got himself CMC.
Oh, okay. So yeah,
Yep.
But he texted me. He's like, I just like shook up the championship game. So Baker, Alex Smith. We'll see what happens in 2021 in Washington. Joe Burrow coming back from injury, and then Melvin Gordon, CMC, Zach Moss, Stephon Diggs, Kenny Golladay, T. Higgins, DK Metcalf. Fantastic wide receiver room. Mike Gesicki, 111, and then he has a second as well. I have this team as fifth. I have him as fifth. So I like what he did. He really transformed this team, and he utilized and took advantage of people looking to make that push and bring uninjured players. So I think there's not much here. Again, maybe there's an opportunity to move Goff or Mayfield. Taysom Hill. Once Drew Brees retires,
Depending on Taysom. Yep.
Once Drew Brees retires, and this is a very smart group, so I don't know if it's going to work, but if I have Taysom Hill on a roster, once Drew Brees announces his retirement, I'm shopping him.
Gone.
I'm shopping him. So and there's an opportunity to bolster his tight end room here. So maybe if he adds that second to the 111, scooches up in that draft a little bit, he can get Kyle Pitts possibly. We'll see. But there's another team with a really nice build. When you have 3 teams as bad as ours in the league, it elevates everybody else. So we did it for everybody else.
It's what we do.
Yeah, I like to see him upgrade at running back a little bit. I think, Melvin Gordon's flashed a little bit, but he's not getting any younger. Zach Moss flashed a little bit, but that Buffalo situation's tough because they're running multiple backs and Josh Allen steals all the goal line work often. So if he could just bolster that a little bit, that'd be nice, but a lot of potential on this roster. And Gesicki's really rising up my board. Gesicki. He's right. Gesicki, JB, Tool, whatever, however you say it. But Gesicki is rising up my boards. I really like the way he's progressed.
I would actually say he did a great move going from Kamara up to CMC. Use that again. Trade CMC maybe to someone like Chris. Go for Chubb or Dobbins or Eckler and try to get another piece added on. I think that would make this team go from 5th place up to 4th, up to 3rd.
Wait, we just talked about process improvements on episode 99, episode 100, processes that we were implementing in 2020 that we're going to carry over because we liked it. And Dan even said, I might be looking for more depth. Anytime we brought up a move to create depth, Dan throws the red flag. You're not New Year, same shit from Dan.
See, I'm struggling with trading just a few guys. So I do agree with the depth. That's what helped me in the beer league, trading Zeke the 1 year to Dustin or whoever I traded, and I got all this depth pieces and it helped me. And it could help you here. So Mitch, you may be right there with the CMC, but for a roster like his that's competitive, CMC could carry you. He could really, just kind of like the tight ends carried a lot of people in the tight end premium this year. So that's a tough piece to move. He's really going to have to get a lot to sell me on that. But
that's the thing. You could get a lot to move him. You get a lot to move him. This takes that team from being down underneath, John and TJ, and gives them a chance to compete. Yeah.
True.
Just like we talked about earlier, that 111, it could be somebody's running back 4. But also in this format, it could even be running back 3 range, depending on how people.
Depending.
And we could see 4 quarterbacks go super early here.
Oh, I think so. Yeah. All 4 of them will go before 111.
And you talk about Pitts, and then you talk about Etienne, Harris. That's 7 right there. So if you get a few receivers that people are in love with, you throw Jamar Chase in there, you throw Rondell Moore, who I really like, but then the Bama guys, Mitch and I, it's definitely a point of contention with our rookie rankings.
Yeah, I don't know how you could hate Devontae Smith, but that's for another day.
I have him like 3 spots lower than you at this point.
Yeah.
All right. Now the grand finale.
Yes.
The man that came to us and said, let's do a league review. Don't take it easy on me. Did you, and Dan, you brought this up. Did you notice how Jung picked this league? Such a great roster. And I also think he picked this league because of how crappy our teams were.
I think it was on purpose.
Yeah. So Jung, but we do appreciate it. I had a lot of fun doing this, but looking at his team, Lamar Jackson and Tua, is there any concern there with Tua? There's a lot of people. I know PFF on their pod, they came out and said, you got to draft a quarterback with your first round pick.
So stupid.
I think you stick with Tua there if you're the Dolphins. But then CEH, David Montgomery, Saquon Barkley, I'm fine there. Quintez Cephas, Juju, Paris Campbell, that's where we have to improve. And then you have Dallas Goedert, TJ Hawkinson, Irv Smith. Love that group. But he's got the money picks. The 101, the 102, and 115. But 101 and 102, it's the Boardwalk and Park Place of the Dynasty Monopoly board. And Jung made that trade. Again, I like it both ways. Dak for 101, but he's going to have the opportunity at Fields and Lawrence with those first 2 picks. Now, does he move one of those quarterbacks? Because you could move a Lamar Jackson. Boom, your wide receiver core is set. Mm-hmm. It's set. 115, that's going to be a decent wide receiver. We'll see how that plays out. But or move back. Get 3 firsts for Trevor Lawrence. I could see that happening.
Yeah, knowing him, he's not going to trade the 101. It's not going to happen. Like, I would love to be able to offer something for the 102. I think there's going to be a lot of people in this league that would love to move up for the 102. Justin Fields is going to be that guy. Everyone knows Trevor Lawrence is like the really good quarterback prospect, but Justin Fields just has that upside that we all see that everyone's going to want to buy into. I'm going to want to, but I can't because I don't have anybody good to trade.
I'm not even kidding. I genuinely, besides the rookie picks, I don't think you could send your entire roster for 102. I really don't.
Oh, AJ Brown for 102. Come on now. Settle down.
I'll be honest, I kind of glanced over the wide receivers there.
I know.
But yeah, if Jung's able to improve that wide receiver core, I have him as my number 1 team right now, just because really solid, and maybe add a running back depth piece. But again, that 115 could, maybe Kenneth Gainwell drops a little bit. I'm going to bring him up again.
I think so.
Chuba Hubbard, depending on what.
He'll be there.
He'll be there.
He'll be there in the third.
I don't know if he'll be there in the third, but depending on how things go there, the combine and the draft capital, a lot of these players, and we'll get into rookie talk throughout the off season. There are so many players, running backs especially, that are getting that 3rd to 4th round grade. That's a big difference. If they drop out of the 3rd, I'm going to be looking at them completely differently. Anyway, any other thoughts here on Jung? Again, this is just a humble brag.
As I look at his roster, like the quarterbacks, I think he either wants to, depending on what he does with his draft strategy, get some depth there. Like Tua, I have question marks by him. I think he's got to be concerned. It doesn't really impact Jung because he's got a 101. He's got Lamar. Again, Jung, I need a quarterback. So, if you want to trade Tua, whatever we got to do here. But if he doesn't get too much depth there, I think he should handcuff those elite ones. I learned my lesson this year, not having Dak's backup. I would have Dak's backup. I would have Lamar's backup on this roster. The running backs, what a trio there in CEH, Monty, and Barkley. I also like Darrington Evans on his bench, and I want to bring up some of his like lower bench players because Jung is one of my favorite guys to watch on the free agent wire in all these leagues because he is a diamond diver, man. Like he's trying to find that diamond in the rough, and I get a kick out of him because sometimes it's like, oh man, you sniped me, Jung, and he gets someone good. And then other times he picks these guys that I never heard of in my entire life and I'll never hear of again. So I want to bust you a little bit, Jung. You said we could be hard on you a little bit. So if I don't mention a guy tonight, Jung, on the deeper dives, there's a reason for that. So don't get hung up on him and don't be afraid to cut him, all right? But I do like Darrington Evans on his bench. I think he's flashed a little bit. At some point, Tennessee's got to give Henry some breathers. They just haven't really been able to find a reliable number two. I think health was a question for Evans this year, but if he stays healthy next year, he's a fast dude, man. He could have some backup value there. And then at the receiver position, he definitely has to find some fixes to go with Juju. You know, I don't know how confident I am in Paris Campbell or Quentin Cephas. They're young pieces, so we'll see how it plays out. He's got surfer boy, pretty boy Chad Hansen there, man, the surfing model. Tyron Johnson flashed a little bit at the end with the Chargers. Green Bay still says they like Emmanuel St. Brown there. So he's got some really bottom level guys that we'll kind of watch. But Jung, there's some other guys you got to build some depth on. Love his tight end room, guys. Holy cow. Dallas Goedert's like a number one receiver. Like if Philly could just get their situation together, you could see how they're trying to use him. Hawkinson, really made strides this year. Irv Smith's showing more upside. And he's even got Donald Parham, who flashed a little there in Njoku. So he's got some nice tight ends.
I have a trade thought. So TJ Strong at wide receiver, Mike Evans, Justin Jefferson, Calvin Ridley, Allen Robinson. Do you have Miles Sanders ahead of David Montgomery for dynasty purposes?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So a David Montgomery plus Tua for Miles Sanders plus Ridley, something like that.
That's fair, but please don't do that for TJ. Don't bail him out, please. Like, I know we gave him advice, right? But just don't. No one trade with him. Let him go one quarterback for a while.
That sounds like collusion. Live on a league review collusion.
I'm the commissioner. I get away with it. What are you going to do?
Justin's got a lot of receivers he could turn to over there. He could definitely spare one or two.
Yeah, we could look at, Saquon Barkley for Swift and Sutton, something like that. I'm just spitballing here. But I think there's the potential that Jung could make some moves. But we know Jung fairly well through our leagues. I think he sits tight and just drafts.
Yeah, he loves young players. Really does.
Yeah, so I think that's the
Cephas is going to be really good next year.
Quintez Cephas. All right, so looking at my rankings here, starting from the bottom, and if you guys have yours listed, please rattle through them. Dan, and then it goes Mitch and myself, we're tied. Zeb, Deo and Justin, tied. Luke, Zach, Nick, tied. Anthony, TJ, the better John, tied. Chris, and then Jung. But again, the way these draft picks are handled, I think it could swing some teams one way or the other. And then even though Zeb said he's not competing this year, we'll see. We'll see, man. I'm going to be rooting for him. All right, Dan, did you have a list in order here?
I did not, man. I just focused on the strengths and weaknesses of the squads. Well handled there. I agree with your analysis.
Yeah, we'll stick with yours, man. You went whole numbers. I was just like, no, I like this team. I like that team. I like this team.
And again, it was a really high level. I gave you a 1, 3, or 5 for each position group and then your pick. So it's not like some big algorithm. It's pretty simple. But hopefully everybody enjoyed it. Jung, I want to say thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Allowing us to get our feet wet in the league review. If you like this, please, and I want to use this as the test drive. Like, let us know in the chat, guys. That sucked, guys. I loved it. This could have been done differently. This could be improved on. Be brutally honest. I think this is a great group for that. You don't have to tell them twice. They will kick us while we're down if they have to. Mitch, anything else? Dan, anything else before we sign off here?
No, I just want to say thanks for Jung for doing it. He's been really cool in the Patreon. And
appreciate you, Junger man, and look forward to competing with you.
Mitch, you always bring
you like that
spirit and life to your.
You like that? That was pretty good. I thought. I thought that was good. Really subliminal.
Yeah, Jung, thank you. Guys, hopefully you enjoy it. Let us know your thoughts, and then let us know if you greatly disagree. I'll never forget the one league where somebody did a breakdown. They said Chris Carson was a 0. I will never
That's right.
forget that. Chris Carson is a winner, and so are you guys. That's inspirational. All right, catch you guys later.